So we all know that schools do not teach us how to make money or build wealth. That's by design because their goal is to create workers. This video, guys, we will talk about how money works within the current system and different methods you can use to build actual real wealth. There will be no BS in this video, guys, just normal one-to-one conversation. Okay, so let's begin. About 88% of millionaires are self-made. But what is the difference between an average person and a millionaire? And there's two differences really. The first one is knowledge, skill, or competency. But in the current era of social media, that's very easy to acquire because you can read a book, you could visit a seminar, you can do a course, whatever it may be. But the other difference would be action. But what determines why one person can act and do steps to achieve their goal and the other person will never even start? Well, the main difference would be fear. And why would you experience that fear? But that's because you do not believe that you can actually achieve the goal that you're looking for. My background was in molecular biology, and from biological perspective, we are designed not to do things that we do not believe that we can achieve, because during our evolutionary process the food was very scarce, and therefore why would you perform an action when the probability of achieving your success is really, really low? So from that perspective, if you do not believe that you can achieve it, if you really don't believe it, then why would you even try? So I suppose in order for you to overcome that step, if this is a problem that you may have, all you have to do is to create a picture of you already achieving it and live as if it already happened. If you can do that, you will automatically make the next step, and this will not be an issue for you again. The second important concept is that the system has changed. So before 1971, the currency was backed up by something tangible, gold. But then Nixon removed the dollar from the gold standard and the system became fiat. But what does that mean to us? Well, politicians like power, which is why they're politicians in the first place. And in order to stay in power, they need to make promises. So they need to promise money or certain incentives to various groups of people. But because countries do not produce anything, they can take that by taxes, but that's not popular. Or they can just print the currency, which is happening everywhere around the globe. That's why the debts are increasing. But by printing the currency, the cost of services that cannot be printed and goods, of course, goes up in value. Or I suppose not in value, in price, because the value stays the same. But because we have now more units, the value of each individual unit, of course, decreases. That's a very simple concept of inflation. So it's really important to understand that even if if you want to be rich, if you want to make a lot of money, whichever way you want to, and we will talk about these ways, you cannot save in this. You can save in this, or in gold. You can do that also. But that's because those things cannot be printed, while currency is not under your control, it's under control of the government. So one of the most important concepts in the whole wealth building process is for you to convert your productivity, which is your currency, into tangible things that cannot be printed. That's how you build real lasting wealth. Money also always flows to those who own the means of production, and that's exactly why the rich will always be rich. So if you can get into the right mindset, it will not be possible for you not to be wealthy. Why? So let's give an example when the governments want to tax the rich and give money to the poor, or if they want to print the money and give it to the poor. So what's going to happen is that people will spend that money on goods and services. But guys, who owns the means of production? So who owns the factories? Who owns the services? It's the same people who we call the wealthy. And therefore, in order for you to build wealth, the best way really is by creating a product. I suppose not the best, but the fastest way is by creating a product for which people will be able to convert the productivity, aka their currency, into your product with enthusiasm. If you can do that, then money will always naturally flow towards you. And with business, it's quite simple. You only need to focus on very few things: bringing value and attention. And preferably, you want to be passionate about it as well. So value will naturally come if you're passionate about it or if you're good at what you're doing. So of course, preferably they need to match, or you can do what you love and then naturally get good at as well. That's possible. But really, the best way, I'll give you an example. Let's say you love football, so you can start coaching at the side. You have your main job, you're doing a bit of coaching. If you're really passionate about it, you're going to be very good with the kids or whoever you're coaching, and naturally you will get people attracted to you, and you can easily turn that into your own small academy and move on and move on and really grow it into something big. In my case, I love teaching, which is exactly why I do what I'm doing right now. So one of the best ways to create a business is by building it around your passions or something you're good at or something that you actually genuinely enjoy doing. And then if you focus on that, naturally you will work really, really hard to bring value to your clients. And from then, if you focus on getting attention towards your business, and the best way to do that right now is through social media, create free organic content around it. Or the method I love is you can get a list of 7,000 influencers in your niche, email 50 of them every single day until you do the whole cycle. Let's say out of 7,000, 20 to 50 agree. You can do content with them or whatever you agree to do, if it's affiliate marketing maybe. You can then use that leverage to do your second cycle. So you're going to email the ones who did not answer, let's say 6,950, but you leverage the ones who already said yes. You say, okay, I already made content with this person, and you do as many cycles as you need until you get to the guys who you want to get. This strategy works. So if you're currently in the process of building your own business, do try it out. It can do magic too. So the other wealth building paths are investing, trading, and speculating. You can do all of them at the same time, but they do require slightly various things. With speculation, I'll give you an example. In 2020, I started buying uranium mining stocks. Why? Because the price per ounce of uranium was $25 per ounce, while it cost miners $60 per ounce to actually produce an ounce of that material. So there is a huge imbalance. And if you think about it, what does that mean? Well, that means that if the price of uranium does not go above that level, then there will be no incentive for the miners to produce the metal. And in that case, there will be no electricity in many countries. For example, in France, I think about 70% of their electricity comes from nuclear. So from that perspective, from this contrarian perspective, it was absolutely no-brainer. But at the time, the publicity around uranium was really, really bad. So everyone really hated it. Every single time you talk about, people will talk about the nuclear accidents, and the asset was genuinely hated. But that's exactly as a speculator when you want to buy it, when everyone does not like it, when the price is really, really low. That's the best opportunity to make multiples on your money. And then in 2023, 2024, uranium went to over $100 per ounce. Right now, it went back down to about 70. So there is a very good opportunity in uranium miners right now, because we see the Trump, his rhetoric changes towards nuclear. China's they're planning on building several nuclear reactors, and we are now could be moving to the world where there's small modular reactors. Literally, they're small. They could be a size of like a van, maybe slightly bigger, and they would work as well. They would be maintained, I suppose, by certain companies. It would take a lot of licensing as well, but there is certainly huge demand for uranium. Production is still below the supply or below the demand, and therefore there's a huge opportunity in uranium, and that's an example of what speculator would be looking for. But it's really important to be comfortable by, let's say you buy a stock or you buy a company, and then a few weeks later the stock drops by 50%. But if the fundamental did not change, you should be happy about it. But the problem with that is everyone around you will be calling you stupid. Why are you owning? You just sell, just accept your loss, whatever. So you need to be able to be on your own and make decisions like these when pretty much everyone else is going against you. And that's really all you need to be a competent speculator, to see these disbalances between supply and demand, or whatever it may be in different businesses, and then be able to pull the trigger. And if the price comes down even more, you should be happy. It should be Merry Christmas, boys and girls, because now you can buy the same asset for cheaper and it's like a sale in the shop. So then the other wealth building method would be trading. And trading is actually really, really simple as well. People try to overcomplicate it so much. In trading, the only thing you need to have is discipline and position size, and then master the charts. That is it, nothing else. The problem that's easy, but it's difficult to actually follow it. For example, in my case, I am not allowed to trade more than 2.5% of my trading portfolio into an individual trade, no matter what. So even if I would have insider news about something, it's my rule. And why is that? It's because if you have small position size, but you follow the rules, over the long term, you will be right more than you will be wrong. But if you make one mistake, and let's say you decide to put 10 or 20% of your trading portfolio, I hope it's trading portfolio, into a certain trade. Well, if the trade goes against you and you get wiped out in that trade, maybe if you use leverage or whatever, I wouldn't recommend that at all. But if you do that, well, you're pretty much removing your gains from many, many months ahead. So one mistake, one bad trade can wipe out gains for many months ahead, if not even a whole year. So if you're able to stay disciplined, how position size, maybe you could put 3% if you're very confident, or in my case, it's 2.5, 1 to 2% if you're, few parameters align. And then if you want to purely speculate, you can put 0.5, maybe 1% as well. And then after that, it's all about the charts. You can really master the charts in a few weeks. And from that, um, align a lot of indicators together. So you could look at the chart. Let's say you have a cup and handle, the moving average supports it, you have a nice volume, the RSI looks good, and you're just building things on top of each other to increase the probability. In my trading style, I like to include fundamentals as well. So I only trade in the sectors in which I invest, because I understand the sector, because I know all the dynamics, because I know what's high and what's low. And you really get this good feeling about the overall market, which really helps you with trading as well. So that's my style, but some people trade purely on charts as well, and that's perfectly fine also. And the next one is investing. So of course, investing is a huge topic and there are many, many books on it, but I just want to give you an example. So let's say that you spend $25 a week on waves. And if you, instead of spending $25, if you would invest that money, let's say inflation, the vapes increase in price 5% a year. So instead of buying vape for many, many years, let's say 30 years, if you were to invest those $25 that you spent a week, passively, S&P 500, no effort. You don't need to even know how to invest. You just click few buttons, invest at S&P 500. Let's say modest 7% annual returns. Recently, they've been much higher, but let's use 7. After 30 years, you would have $220,000 by just this one habit. So with investing, it's all about compounding effect and starting early if you want to do it passively, especially. But I just wanted to use that example for you to understand how easy it is to make money over the long term by investing if you just remove few bad habits and if you stay consistent. Now, this is not for everyone. People like me, and maybe some of you as well, you will not be satisfied with that. You want to learn it, you want to master it, you want to be good at it. In that case, of course, you would need to, do a few courses, do whatever to get competent on it. But then there's two main paths. You can invest into, as I said, the overall market, but then you can invest into ETFs that cover, let's say, a certain sector like IT. Let's say you're bullish on IT because of AI, whatever. So you want to get involved, but you don't really have time to analyze individual companies. So you can buy ETFs to invest into various sectors. And there are ETFs for absolutely everything. Or the other method is to invest actively. In this case, I would recommend to pick a sector of interest. In my case, that's commodities. I really invest in gold, silver, copper, uranium, and a few other companies that own different metals now and then, but primarily it would be these assets. And then with mining stocks, you segregate them into different tiers. So you would have big companies, let's say producers or junior producers or developers, and then you would have the junior companies who are drilling or they only started to build the mine. So that's another way. That's something I specialize in, and that's sort of something that I love doing. But you can absolutely use in my example. I hope you can see how you can make money that way. So in the ideal world, you're able to open a business which provides a lot of value because you're passionate about it, and you get cash flow and you grow it and you develop it. And because you don't have fear anymore, because you believe that you can achieve it, all the problems that you will get along the way, you will sort of solve naturally because you're passionate to get your product out to the world. And the other tip, guys, even once you start, it gets much easier. And the problems that you thought would be big, they get much smaller. So you still get them. You still have to, sometimes do things that you don't want to do. And especially at the start, when you're opening a business, it's much more difficult than working. But also on the same side, while it's much more difficult, it practically, from your perspective, at least in my case, I enjoyed it much more because I always find it difficult to have a boss or whatever. So in that case, I rather work more doing something that something that I love and something I can scale. Because when you're working at the normal job, you have a huge cap over how much money you're going to make. And then once you have your business really properly going, you then get a lot of cash and you want to invest that cash. You can invest it passively or you can invest it actively. So I hope you can see how we're joining different wealth building methods. And then you want to have a certain percentage of dry powder, let's say 10% of your overall wealth for market opportunities. If you get a recessions or whatever, you want to have 6 to 12 months of emergency fund as well. And in my case, I save in these. Um, that's what I do, and they've done really well in the last few years as well. So that's sort of my wealth building path. And my main point would be is that there are so many ways to get wealthy. All you need is one, and preferably you want that one to be based on things that you actually love doing. So if you're interested, guys, I have a completely free how to get started PDF where I talk about these different wealth building paths. I've put a lot of energy and effort into creating that file. So if you're interested, please have a look. I will be making many videos in around related topics. So please feel free to subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon.